Hi there, YouTube. Welcome to Stratosphere Lounge. I'm Bill Whittle. Let's grab our friends over on Twitch real quick. Oh, sorry about that. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Stratosphere Lounge. I'm Bill Whittle. It's the 5th of September, Friday, and 2025. And we had to move the show, I'm afraid, because my lovely wife, Natasha, took a pretty nasty fall yesterday and ended up fracturing her left wrist pretty badly, and sprained her right one as well. So let me just get this chat window up here. I just kind of rushed in here. A second. So yeah, that wasn't fun at all. And hang on. Okay, there we go. Kind of a sort of an intimate crowd tonight's usually the case when we go off schedule, which is more often than I would like. So anyway, yeah, she was heading just up to the lower step to the front porch of our house, and tripped and went forward and broke the fall with her left wrist, and her right wrist came down and put a kind of a shock down that tendon and kind of bruised her elbow. We were a little worried her right elbow might have been broken as well. But so she's got a pretty good sprain on her right wrist, and soreness and bruising, down the length of that. But her left wrist was pretty badly fractured. So we I drove her to the emergency room. She's right-handed. Yes. It won't. Thank you very much for Roadrunner says I hope and pray it won't affect her artistic endeavors. She'll be fine. We had a real bad experience, which I'd mentioned many shows ago, at the hospital closest to us. We went in at about 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday or something, and she'd gotten some particle in her eye. We sat there for an hour and a half. Finally, just left. We went to a different hospital this time, and we got seen within about. We got taken to the back and got her into a bed, and probably certainly within 30 minutes of getting there, probably about 20 minutes of getting there. And we sat there for about an hour, and they finally got her some pain medication. Fortunately, from some oral surgery she had some 800 milligrams of ibuprofen, which is pretty decent. So that's started to kick in, but it still hurt like the devil. She was just screaming. So they gave us a pain medication, and we waited about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and they came and took the x-rays. And we waited for about 3 or 4 hours. We were there for 7 hours. The hospital said they were getting a lot of emergency codes that particular night, which I certainly understand, and God knows if I'd been sitting there and had broken my wrist, and somebody says, if I find out, look, there are people fighting for their lives, they're welcome to go ahead, especially if they've done something about the painkiller. But 7 hours in an emergency room is a crazy long time. I could see from the board outside that there was looked like there was one doctor on duty, and he was stacked on probably 11 different patients. And so it was, yet another example of how broken the healthcare system here is. And as naturally enough, Natasha was saying, back in Russia, this just doesn't happen. You just go in there and you get treated. I always have felt that. I felt this about just because my dad was a hotel manager. I've felt this about any business. Your patrons are your income. That's the whole thing. In the hospitality business my dad was in, feeling welcome and feeling respected and treated affectionately and stuff. That's it. My dad said, a hotel's just a bed and a TV set, and if you're lucky, a view. But everything depends on how, what kind of personal care you get. But all that to say that I've always felt that if I was running a retail type business, and needless to say, I've been thinking a great deal about this as far as my own business goes too, but I was running a retail business, I would always make sure that there were more employees in the store ready to take care of customers than there were customers. And I've certainly felt this about an emergency room. I understand a doctor shortage, and I understand, utopian thinking and all the rest of it. But it seems to me that unless you're in a real major crisis situation, like a major, multi-casualty accident or something of that nature, it seems to me like there should be doctors waiting for patients in an emergency room rather than the other way around. Now that I know that sounds a little idyllic to some people, but it doesn't seem unreasonable to me. I understand also completely that that there are just random fluctuations in intake, and that would mean that most of the time there'd be a lot of doctors sitting around, and I guess they got to be paid and all the rest of that stuff. But it seems to me that in a well-functioning society, the emergency room would be a place where you could go get emergency. Now, needless to say, if she was having trouble breathing or was turning blue or had been shot or been in a car accident, they would have just wheeled her right in there. And it reminds me of that I think it's probably the funniest thing he ever did. Brian Regan routine about going to the hospital and saying his pain level was a 6 or a 7 instead of a 9. But it was just, we were just constantly back of the line because there were people coming in with with worse things to do. And again, we were, it's not like we were bitching and moaning or anything, but 7 hours is a long wait when you're still in a fair amount of pain, and it just seems like we can do better than that. Yeah, 10, say 10. See, and this just led to another discussion, which is just something interesting to talk about. Caslin says urgent care centers are all over the place in Houston, so I'd go to one of those unless I was dying. We've tried urgent care centers 2 or 3 times, and they have not been able to do a tongue depressor. Honestly, every time we've gone in there, we gave them 3 or 4 shots, and every time we went in there was just, oh, we can't treat you. It's like, okay, that's a wasted half an hour. You see what Darth Chuck Merciless was here one day. We're out here. IT sports force password change 5 p.m. Yeah, password change and so on. Lord Bio says it very much depends on the urgent care. One of the things we're going to do as a result of this, after that, and a couple of other things, is we're just going to find out where to take people in this area, where to go. I thought about going a little bit further to Valley Presbyterian, but I thought, which I'd heard generally good things about, but I thought Encino is a pretty upscale neighborhood. But and again, they kept saying it was just unusually busy. So yeah, so she has she's fractured her wrist. And was in a fair amount of pain last night, and I just got in to start the show after dropping off some higher powered pain meds. So hopefully she's off in the happy land now. But needless to say, I've got the phone here, and if she's got any problems, she'll call me, and that'll be quick end to that show. But otherwise, I'm still, hopefully she's sleeping, and I've got some stuff to do. So yeah, Marusha says my mom was a nurse for 40 plus years, more than pay. The number one complaint about employees was always understaffing. Yeah, Roadrunner, shouldn't you be at home? Well, I missed, I shot out of here yesterday when I found out about it. And I didn't get a show posted last night, and I shouldn't, and I wasn't able to, and I have to do one tonight. Look, I appreciate the concern. If she was, if there's anything I could do, then needless to say, I'd be home. I've been spoon feeding her because it's kind of cute. But yeah, if she's got a problem, she's going to call me. Otherwise, hopefully, right now she's off in dreamland and getting ready. So the next step is Monday. She goes in to see a specialist, and they'll take a quick look at it. I think Tuesday she's scheduled to go in for the blood run up and all that other stuff, because this surgery is going to be it's going to be surgery. So there you go. Roadrunner says, Natasha's more important than posting a show or keeping us entertained. How can she call you with two bad wrists? Well, first of all, she can. She just taps a screen and pushes a button. So her left wrist is functional. Look, needless to say, I wouldn't leave her if she was hurting. If there's anything I could do about it, and if I wasn't able to get home in about 9 minutes, if I really had to. It's just trying to get out in front of all this stuff, and it's just it's just one damn thing after another. So she fell and sprained her right wrist, and did some bruising to her arm and elbows, and her left wrist is fractured badly enough to require surgery. So there we go. So John says, as a specialist about how to keep the bone growth on the broken wrist minimal. This guy is very, very highly regarded, and I might have mentioned this before, but I'm not doing this. I'm doing this for entirely practical reasons. Just having had, she's been here coming up on 9 years, and I mean, like in a few days it'll be 9 years, and over the course of that time, we've changed doctors, and then every time we change doctors, I go to Russian doctors because I've found them to be just better doctors. I'm not saying that they're better technically. I'm just saying they come from a system. They're more recent arrivals in America, so they didn't go through the the industrialization of the medical industry here. I mean, the short form is nowadays. It all started with these. All started with, you can solve so many of these problems if you just instituted a rule that says that the person who loses a civil lawsuit has to pay the court costs and the legal fees, because this. I remember clearly back in I want to say in the 70s or early the 80s. I just started seeing, have you been injured in an auto accident? And so what happens is these doctors are just getting sued. Sometimes, rarely, doctors are negligent, and the AMA, if they had been more prescient, should have realized that it's in the interest of the AMA, and it's also in the interest of the police, by the way, to get rid of the bad apples and get them off there before the public starts, reacting and then, going overboard. So when a police department hires a bad cop, or there's a bad cop on the force and the other cops don't do anything about it, then, you're kind of responsible for what you're going to get. But in the case of the doctors, once this malpractice epidemic started happening, they were winning these huge judgments in jury trials because a good lawyer can make people feel sorry for somebody, and the mostly either fake or over exaggerating plaintiffs come in with everybody's seen this. It's a joke now. It's a cliche. Broken arm, neck brace, barely walk. Then they get video of them, out there mowing their lawn or doing somersaults in their pool. But So doctors had to carry this malpractice insurance, which was hundreds of thousands of dollars in some cases. So that's that much money he has to make before he can start, making a profit on his own individual business. And then you have this gigantic iron triangle of government regulation and Medicare and all of that stuff. Then you've got the private insurance companies, which are weirdly connected and weirdly regulated by the federal government. The insurance companies aren't allowed to compete interstate. They're not allowed to do a lot of things that like a car insurance company could do. And so basically what happens is, if I want $1 of health care, my dollar goes to Washington where they take 30 cents, then that dollar goes to the insurance company where they take 30 cents, and then they give, 30 cents to the 40 cents to the doctor. And so now the doctor has to see 3 times as many patients to make as much money as he was making before, which means you get less time with the doctor. And because of the malpractice and all that other stuff, it used to be back in the olden days, you'd go if you had the situation that Natasha had, you I would have taken her to the doctor's office because we weren't sure if it was a sprain, it was a bad one. We would have taken her to the doctor's office. The doctor would have manipulated the wrist and stuff, probably taken X-ray. And in a simple case, if it had been a sprain, he would have said, "It's a sprain. I'm going to give you a splint or a cast, and just take it easy, and that'll be $50." But now, no matter what you do when you first go to your general practitioner, the first and usually the only thing they do, they don't talk to you about anything. They just, it hurts when I do this. Well, don't do that. But now you come in and say, it hurts when I do this. It's like, okay, we're going to run some tests. And so you get sent off to somebody else who doesn't know who you are or particularly care, and you get X-rays and MRIs, and next thing you're looking at is your sprained wrist. You've got $2,500 worth of legal bills to pay. So that means the insurance companies have to charge more, and it's just a bloody mess. It's just a complete broken system, and I just hate it, and I hate it more every time I have to deal with it. And we really should be doing better. I would like to see RFK Jr. A little more empowered, not completely, but we need a real overhaul of the. It'd be nice just to give the dollar to the doctor, wouldn't it? They used to have. There is a bunch. No, not single payer. On the contrary, that is the last thing we want. Single payer means nobody gets any treatment. Single payer is awful. In Canada, it's a death sentence. You get you go to single payer National Health Service, like in Canada, they'll just do the math and decide that treating your cancer is more expensive than giving you pain medication. Just go home and die. Same for Great Britain and all the rest of it. Road Riders on it as a concierge is, I think, the way to go, where you basically have a doctor who runs a private business and he takes on 150 patients, let's say, and every one of them pays $1,000 a month or whatever, and the doctor treats everything for that $1,000 a month. And if you have some catastrophic situation, you take out what I think is called stop loss insurance, which is infinitely less expensive than medical insurance, and that basically means that if you get hit by a bus or you develop some expensive terminal disease, then that policy pays out $200,000 or whatever the number, and then everybody's happy. And it's a much better way to go. So anyway, it's just another couple days. I'm not trying to minimize this, obviously. I mean, it wasn't like I sat here and decided about whether to rush home yesterday when I got the call. I got the call. She was just screaming. I could barely make out what she was saying. I was in the car before before the seats stopped spinning. What was the point of that? I guess it's just that the system is, definitely could use some improvements. So, I remember what I was saying. It's just I'm just trying to get the doors open on this membership thing, and I'm virtually positive the website's working. But I haven't had time to final stress test it. I will hug all of Natasha, for all of you. Thank you. It's going to take me a while to get through all of you, but I deeply appreciate it. We always appreciate the kind words and the prayers and everything else. Is very, very, very meaningful to all of us. Yeah, but Roadrunner says never rains, but it pours. But it's like it shouldn't be slow at all. That we should have had that plug-in out of there by now. We should be going directly to Stripe. And I saw that, Marusha. No, we can't set up a home office for editing. I just can't. Anyway, we'll see. I was able to finish the Truth Bombs promo. I'm toying about. I did add. Did I add one or two? I added at least one, and I added the ending, remixed it, and cut it down as much as I could. So redid some shots. I could not put the lizard eyes on the lizard people. I tried, it just couldn't. And for some reason, of all of the prompts that I've tried to animate, that lizard person thing is just impossible. Just you'd think it'd be one of the easiest ones, but just it will not do it. It could do it in VO, but every time I try to upload the picture of me in VO, it says you're not allowed to upload prominent people, which I don't think has anything to do with me. I just think it's a kind of a close-up of a person that it didn't generate. In any event, I am happy and proud to premiere what looks like a more or less finished product, I think, here. And I think it's just really fun. So let me tee this up here. Let me do this real quick. Sean Bradshaw. Can Doug get a shout out? He's a big fan. He's my dad and had a stroke a few weeks ago, and it would make him smile. For my dad, I love you, and I whisper I was with you right now as you recover. Well, hi, Doug. You've got a fine son there, and he certainly has excellent taste in podcasts, as do you. We had a stroke patient in the bed next to us, and I had a transient ischemic event back in November, so that's kind of it's just kind of a thing to wear around with you, just this kind of like, I don't know about that. But in any event, I hope you're doing better, and yeah, I'll do anything to make somebody's dad smile, especially a good dad like you. I hope you're recovering fully, and you got a good son there. He's been a fun part of this, and thanks for being a fan and a supporter all these years. And hopefully this will make you smile, because if you can smile, you're recovering from your stroke. So that's good. That's a pleasure to do, and thank you very much. And just real quick, got a super chat from Bad Weather Biker. Compare the cost of sutures for a human laceration compared to sutures for a hunting dog that's snagged on a barbed wire fence. The sutures are the same, and the skill sets for a veterinarian are the same as a human doctor. Let me just go back to that for a second. I was going to mention it when I was talking about Russian doctors, and I forgot to. I've known at least three individual people, including one that I know now, who's been a big help to us. When I got to Miami in 1970, there was a large and recent wave of immigrants from Cuba. The first immigrants from Cuba came right in 1959 and 60, and kind of got the hell out of there. And then it seems to me that somewhere in the early 70s was like another big rush. This was not the Mariel boat lift. That was in the 80s, and that was when he let all his criminals loose. But there were lots and lots of Cuban immigrants in Miami, needless to say. Lots and lots. And we would hear stories and things about guys who had been brain surgeons, heart surgeons, working honestly, without exaggeration, as janitors. The whole family working, and they'd save up money, and they'd kind of pool their community money together, and they'd buy a little convenience store, and then that would make some money, and then they'd buy a second convenience store, and then they'd hand it off to the sons and so on, and they just built themselves back up out of poverty just through sheer hard work and lack of ego. But I've always felt that, for example, one of the medical assistants at our general practitioner's office, we used to love the GP we had. He was great. He died of a heart attack suddenly at age 46, not long after receiving his very own Victrola, I think twice. Not saying that's what caused it, but I'm not saying it isn't either. And his replacement, we weren't terribly fond of it. So this medical assistant left, but we stayed in touch with her, and she was a cardiac surgeon in Russia, and now she's doing things like taking people's blood pressure and you know, and I don't see any reason why we cannot enormously streamline the recertification process here in America. The only thing I can think of that would be standing in the way of that might be the AMA. I'm not accusing them of this. It just seems to be the most likely case. I also understand that there, not so much anymore, but there's certainly a period in history, I want to say around the 90s or something, when lots and lots and lots of people were trying to be doctors in America, and they'd gotten their medical degrees overseas, and their training was way, way, way subpar. So I'm not saying you don't have to watch out for that. But we have right now in this country really, certainly thousands, and I'd be willing to bet you tens, if not hundreds of thousands, of highly skilled medical professionals, many of them medical doctors, who are either working in other fields or doing menial work in medical fields. And I don't understand this at all. I mean, I don't know, just off the top of our head, let's say it takes 10 years to train a doctor to be competent. It seems to me that it doesn't take 10 years to recertify that person. It seems to me it's more like a 5-week process or something like that. And we sure do need more doctors in this country. And to think that we have, I mean, not just like capable, but like specialists, highly trained specialists who are here permanently. They're either American citizens or resident aliens, and they don't it's just virtually impossible for them to get requalified. And I'm not talking about, we're just talking about outsourcing of IT people and so on. I'm not talking about importing foreign doctors. I'm saying there's just thousands and thousands of them here that would be great. Lord Bio says, actually, we need general practitioners more than anything. Yeah, that would be great. I would have taken her to a GP. I mean, she was hurting, but she wasn't. Her life wasn't threatened here. So I don't know, man. These things seem insurmountable, and they seem really just like this is the new normal, and there's nothing we can do about it. And then along comes Donald Trump, and then the next thing you know, things that were absolutely, absolutely off the table, as far as I was concerned, 6 months ago. Well, certainly a year ago. They're just happening all the time, Washington, D.C.'s murder rate has gone to zero. ICE agents are arresting people in downtown Los Angeles, which I can't believe. Now, I have heard of cases of one specific case where 60 Russian immigrants had been in the system and had applied for asylum and were then deported. And when they got to Russia, they were all questioned by the FSB, and some of them were apparently tortured and so on. And it's not that they're Russian, it's that they made an application. That's not the same as somebody sneaking over the border, That's somebody who is in the system, and I'm all about exporting all of these military-age males that came over here. I'm all about, and people who snuck across the border and have no contact and driving without insurance. These are not those people, and it's not just Russians. It's like you got to be careful you don't go too far with this, because I found that to be kind of unjust and a little bit alarming. Not just a little bit. I've always felt that the solution to people who really want to live here and are capable of contributing to the society instead of just leeching off of it. I've always felt that, okay, you go in, you talk to immigration, and you get in the back of the line and you go through what we went through, which took us 7 years, 7 years. Provisional green card. Then you have to prove that you're not just here on a fake marriage and all the rest of it. And you do all these other things. You pay your taxes, not have a criminal record. Then you get the resident alien card, and then more often than not, people want to be here forever. Go to the trouble of becoming an American citizen, and that's what my wife did. And it cost us a lot of money and a lot of time. And she's a huge contributor to the society in many, many ways. And I don't want to see the baby thrown out with the bathwater. So there we go. Anyway, let me run you the latest version. I may add one more. I don't think I probably will, come to think of it. But this is pretty close to done. Did a close on it and stuff. So I'd love to get your feedback on it. However, anytime I premiere something, it's nice to hear good things along with the bad things. There's nothing worse than spending 3 months on something and somebody saying, that blue pixel should be green. So anyway, let me drag this into the mix and we'll see what we get here. Okay, ready? Here we go. I'm going to do YouTube first, and YouTube cycles the video, so when the video goes back to the beginning for a few seconds before I jump in, that's what's going to happen. Alrighty. Yeah, and I'm going to have to turn my volume off too, so I'll try to remember to turn that back on again. Here we go. I'm going to turn the volume off first, and then I'm going to run these videos.
Behold, it is I, the mighty Zeus. Hey, how's it going? Many years ago, I appeared unto you in forms that I thought you could understand. Afterburner, firewall, and the very earth shook with their power and majesty. But lo, that was many years ago. Now, behold, the great cosmic clock. It is time that I should again appear before you in a form familiar to you.
Racist! Homophobe!
Homophobe! Fascist!
Silence, you puny mortals! Where was I? The time has come again for a new series of long-format revelations, for behold, down in the depths of his infernal workshop, mighty Vulcan has...
Vulcan is a Roman god, not a Greek god!
Piss off, Karen! Mighty Vulcan has brought forth from his forges a new tool, an intricate mechanism for delivering unto you the truth.
And with the new tools I now have at my fingertips, I think it's time for a third rebranding of the Afterburner Firewall series of videos. I want to call them Truth Bombs. We'll take a series of topics, virtually all of them controversial, and then we'll state the claims fairly and examine and weigh the evidence on both sides, and then see if we can come up with either a definite conclusion if the evidence is good enough, and if it's not, then at least the most likely case answer. And we're not ever going to use the term conspiracy theory either. That's just got way too much baggage. Now we'll call each case a speculative hypothesis. Some of these speculative hypotheses don't on the surface appear to be true, but Some of them don't appear to be false either. Some of those are in no particular order. Now, one dusty old cowpoke can't do all of this by his lonesome. We run a membership-based business here. We call it the Open Bar Ranch. The more members we have, well, I reckon the more of these truth bombs we can do. We're looking for pioneers to help tame the cultural landscape and make it safe for civilized people to walk the metaphorical streets again at night. Will you help us? The link is down below. I got to skedaddle. Thank you for your time.
Behold, it is I, the mighty Zeus.
And we're back. So, that's it. Yeah, I thought that was fun. See what we can do about that. Yeah, be nice to actually run it now and get it into place. I sure do have fun doing those things though. It takes so many iterations to get the one perfect still, and once you get the one still, you're pretty much golden. So yeah, that's it. I know we've shown it a whole bunch by now. We should probably shown it 10 times, I guess, on and off, but there it is. So we'll figure about rolling that baby out. Let me move on to the questions here, and we'll see what we got tonight, and I'll get on a right angle and get that out the door and take a look at where the website is. When we make the should go straight to Stripe, and if that happens, we should be able to pull out the Recurly plugin that's slowing the website down so much. So that'd be nice, because this is just ridiculous. Let's see what we got. This is longer than it's ever been, honestly. For the love of God. Is that a 15-second page load? something like that. This was supposed to have been fixed. I just, honest to God, I am just. This just makes me sick. Honest to God, it makes me sick. I've been working on this for 3 months. I've been paying. What is going on? I'm getting on a plane. I'm going to find this guy, and I'm going to. It's. I'm just. God 455 says, "Is it time to start from scratch?" It's a WordPress website. It's the most popular website design in the world. My God Almighty! It's 20 seconds now. I'm just out. I'm out of elastic. I don't know what to do anymore. I just don't know what to do. I don't have any idea what to do. If you're not logged in, it goes instantaneously. It just makes me want to just go home, go to bed, and pull up the covers and just not wake up again. Okay. Road Rider. Hey, Bill. Hey, back, Road Rider. Hope your Labor Day included a fun drive to nowhere, and you and your wife just stayed at home in your idyllic little neighborhood enjoying the day off. I was here working. But thank you anyway. I actually did take a couple of nights off, come to think of it. Questions, Bill Whittle, choice night. How strong must the urge be, and how difficult to resist the desire to use the entire force of the federal government to dig up dirt on the linchpin behind all lawfare, all of it against President Trump, one Mark Elias, activist lawyer, and the man behind every injunction, every prosecution of Trump, and he seems to be untouchable. You'd have to resist the temptation to shut that weasel down with some really nasty but true dirt. I guess if you'd give in, you're better than Obama or Biden. I'm sorry, had my soul ripped out of my body. I've never heard of Mark Elias, I'm sorry to say, so it's probably why he's so effective road rider. I think he sounds like the kind of guy who should be given a long walk on a short pier, and I don't know why. The bottom line is I just don't know anything about him. I don't really have much I can say about it because I've never heard of him before. Question 2 is, if true, 6 or 7 of the AfD Germany opposition party have just died in the last 2 weeks in the run-up to the election. 1, 2, or even 3 deaths you could chalk up to coincidence, but 6, could people be that evil? Yes. 7 people. It's 7. No, that's not coincidence. Statistically impossible. Yes, they're murdering their opposition because they know that AfD will do to Germany what Donald Trump did to America. It's 7 candidates killed, and I think that was just in one region, right in Westphalia or something like that, or the list of people who have died associated with the Clintons is statistically impossible as well. Is it possible that people could be that evil? I'm with you on this one, Road Rider. I often don't believe it because it's not because I don't want to believe it or don't want to face it. I often look at these things and don't believe it because I just think it can't be possible. But then again, the numbers are they don't lie. There's no question that, well, let me put it to you this way. In Butler, Pennsylvania, what was the length of time? It's been a while. 40 minutes from the time somebody first reported a guy in the crowd had a rifle. We saw from our from those whatever that particular woman was trying to holster her gun. They put the A-team of Secret Service on Donald Trump, and the people clearly, at Butler, the Secret Service didn't just drop the ball. The Secret Service was clearly influenced. There's a story about a police officer went up on the roof, saw the guy with a rifle, ran back down again. It might have been 80 minutes. I don't know. So yes. I'm very reluctant to say the deep state hired somebody to kill somebody because we're so influenced by the movies we see and these giant, huge action kind of mystery things with the big twist at the end where you find out the bodyguard is actually the murderer and all that. Yeah, it's rewired people's brains. I saw that when I was a jury foreman. But with that said, it's not a conspiracy to say that the Secret Service is assigned by the government under Joe Biden. The Secret Service failed. It didn't just fail. They looked the other way. Eric Blake says, lest we forget, a lot of Secret Service in Butler were suddenly reassigned to the Joe Biden rally, if he recalls correctly. Yes. So those decisions didn't come from a crazed lunatic. Crazed lunatic in a basement can't control what Secret Service agents, what level of security there is there. That's done by the deep state. And Yes, they let it happen. In fact, they practically painted a target behind him. I don't know how many shots the shooter got off in Butler, but it was taken out pretty quick by police snipers, which tells me that somebody had a beat on this guy. You know, and this is where madness lies, because now you really do start having to ask yourself, well, if they would do this, then why wouldn't they fake the moon landing, or why wouldn't they, that's why this truth bombs thing is just going to be it's not going to be here's the answer. It's going to be, here's how you think about things. Here's how you weigh evidence, so if you want to just divide these things up into conspiracy theory and not conspiracy theory, we did go to the moon. The earth is not flat. 9/11 was not an inside job, but Butler was, I think, I won't even say a state-sponsored assassination attempt. Yeah, I think that's fair, state-sponsored. Because the incompetence and the negligence of the Secret Service at Butler cannot be explained by one or two failures. That is that's just malignant negligence, criminal negligence, prosecutable negligence. So yes, people can be that evil, and this is why, in spite of the whole Epstein thing, and I was very pleased at how Dan Bongino handled the Epstein thing. Taking the day off, threatening to resign. Clearly, Dan Bongino was not happy about the effects that his personal reputation was taking as a result of that, which makes me trust him even more. And I trusted him before he went in. So, I hope and expect that these investigations are ongoing, and you don't stand in front of a microphone in front of the entire world and say that you have evidence, essentially indisputable evidence that Barack Obama basically committed treason by trying to overthrow the incoming presidential candidate. So, there you go. Capital G Geek, greetings from the swamps of Northern Virginia. Newt Gingrich recently tweeted about just how many Northern troops during the Civil War were conscripted recent immigrants. The numbers are surprising. Yes, 200,000 Germans, 150,000 Irish, 45,000 British, 50,000 Canadians. Seems to indicate that the appetite for war wasn't strong in the North, and they had to conscript non-Americans to fight it. Would they have been able to pursue the war without those foreign fighters? It's typically the tyrant territory. I wonder if Sherman's march to Atlanta would have been a little bit less brutal had it truly been American brothers doing the burning. That's actually an interesting point that's been discussed. In the same vein, if the North was right to preserve the Union, does the same justification apply to China invading Taiwan? Have you done anything on your Camaro recently? No, I haven't done anything on the Camaro recently. It's not the same as China invading Taiwan. Those are two separate nations and always have been. It's not like Taiwan seceded from a Chinese government that had been in place, for 150, 200 years, and that Taiwan had signed agreements equivalent to the agreements that the state legislatures signed in order to become part of the United States. So the Taiwan analogy I just don't think holds any water. However, I think it was Shelby Foote who said that the North fought the war with one hand tied behind its back. During the summer of Gettysburg in '63, there was a crew competition between Harvard and Yale. These are very fit Northern boys who were out rowing in the midst of this carnage, and they never really reached the end of their manpower. They never even really got close to the bottom of the barrel on the manpower thing, the way that the South did. The South just ran out of people. In the final years or months of the war, there was serious discussion in the Confederacy about arming slaves. And my favorite quote from the Civil War comes from that. I think I mentioned that on the Backstage show, which I'm going to try and post tonight if I can. when the discussion was going on in the South about arming slaves and having them fight for the South in exchange for their freedom, that's a measure of how desperate they were. And one of the Southern fire breathers, one of the Southern politicians, said, I think, the most important thing that was said during the Civil War, talking about the idea of putting blacks in uniform for the Confederacy. This Southern politician said, if blacks make good soldiers, then our entire theory of slavery is wrong. And they didn't make good soldiers. So, yeah, but the number of conscripted foreigners in the North, or at least newly arrived immigrants anyway, most people don't realize just how high it was. And a significant number of them in the South as well. Irish Pat Claiborne was a well-beloved, extremely competent Southern general who's killed at Franklin, Battle of Franklin. And Pat Claiborne would have been an excellent Corps commander or even Army commander in place of John Bell Hood, who had tremendous courage but not a great deal of savvy. So yes, there were entire regiments marching with a harp or a shamrock or whatever, and on the northern side, what's the word I'm looking for? Substitutes were allowed and were continually allowed. So you could pay somebody to take your place. If you got drafted, you could pay somebody. I think the rate was somewhere around $400, maybe $300-400. A lot of money back then. It's enough to stake a farm, And then you could, if you could find one, if you could find a substitute, you're just walking down the street and you see some guy and he looks like he's kind of hard on his luck, and you say, hey man, I just got drafted into the Union Army. You want to take my place? I'll give you $350. There were a number of people who took that. And of course, whenever you do things like that, you start running your own little black market. So there were substitute jumpers. There were people who substituted, 6-7 times. They'd get the $300 and they just skedaddle and show up in some other county or some other state and volunteer to substitute for some rich guy. I'm strongly against conscription, both practically and on principle. But in case of dire need, then the idea that you could buy your way out of it is got to be brutal on morale. I just think it must be just brutal on morale. So, yeah, there's that. Eduardo Enrique, second try, important and sorry for that, but also long. Greetings, Bill. Not sure you remember my question from 2 weeks ago, but I was the one job seeking. Yes, I do remember. I tried your letter suggestion, and the first two places just told me to apply via the website, meaning they don't care or are not aware of the AI plus HR are auto-rejecting candidates. Third time was the charm, and now I'm on my way to a job making magnetic sensors for automobiles for spacecrafts for a nice pay. Well, I'll be damned. Thank you very much, Gob. That's kind of you. Very, very, very kind. And let me just get this before I forget. Super chat also from Lapco92. If the Earth was flat, cats would have pushed everything off of it by now. That's very good. But if it is flat, can't we solve global warming by flipping it over and using the cool side? Yes, you can. And if the Earth is flat, I'm curious to know why you can't see the Eiffel Tower from the top of Big Ben. Eduardo, that is just absolutely fantastic news. I was afraid it was going to be, this, because I thought it was good advice when I gave it, but I had thought that it was going to be like, nah, it just didn't work. People just bumped it. But on your third try, and it sounds like a job you're looking forward to. I'm glad I could earn my pay here, so to speak, every now and then. That's just wonderful news. So thanks for the advice, and don't forget to blame me if your car won't turn or your airplane has an instrumentation failure. Okay. Yeah. Damn you, Eduardo Enrique. I knew I shouldn't have given you that advice to get you hired. Even though I'm no longer under such duress, the ordeal opened my eyes to this major problem, invisible and unnoticed to most, myself included. You believe the crisis is over and the seculum turning is done, Bill, but I'm nearly sure the job market crisis will be the worst to come. Yes, AI has already displaced a lot of people, and some of them are dear friends of mine. A graphic designer I know is essentially just can't find work because people will do work that is 90% as good for 10% of the price. This abhorrent practice of posting fake positions has been justified as ways to keep employers under productivity duress. That's always a great way to run a business, keep everybody under perpetual duress. Believing they can be replaced at a moment's notice, or gathering data for brokers and for keeping salaries low or tear shareholders. The company is growing to attract investors and government grants. However, the psychological and financial damage to job seekers, especially newly grads, is unthinkable. Took me 700 applications, and I am a double-degree master robotics engineer with 9 years of experience. Took 700 applications before consulting the mighty and powerful Bill Whittle, and 3 afterwards. And the stress toll left me at wit's end. I cannot begin to think how a just graduated engineer would feel. Yeah, man, stress is it's obviously a form of fear. Fear is the mind killer. It's just a level of stress that I've been carrying for the last 6 months. It's just been incapacitating, and I honest to God don't know how I'm able to just keep going at it. It just never, ever, ever ends. It is not a way to run a country. I saw with my own eyes as positions I applied 6 times had HR AI auto-rejecting me, telling it was filed by another candidate, only to see the same job posted again 2 weeks later. In fact, I saw this happen dozens of times. Sorry for the long post, but thanks again for the advice. But I think the issue should be put into attention of one such as yourself, if only to bring more awareness on it. Like I said, I know socialism to be a deal with the devil, but this may turn many competent young professionals to shake hands with a red comrade. One presented this issue as a late-stage capitalism failure. Another fear of mine is if the diminishing power of unions has caused this and the unions were a necessary evil after all. Don't just take my word for it. Here's a very nice explanatory video I urge you to see on your time. Here's a YouTube link. Why the job market is on the brink of collapse. Yeah, well. And Boeing is a great example of this. You know, Boeing's entire reputation, Boeing was not in the airplane business, but it wasn't even the travel business, it was in the safety business. And they merged with McDonnell Douglas, and McDonnell Douglas corporate greed culture took over the Boeing engineering culture. And so Boeing started cutting corners and hiring cheaper engineers and having work done out, farmed out to people that they can't supervise. And now Boeing is got a reputation where people are saying, I just don't want to get on a Boeing airplane. If it's Boeing, I'm not going. And congratulations, you've killed your company by trying to scrape another 3.5% off your profit margin. Somebody once said of Ronald Reagan that Ronald Reagan didn't come to save us from liberals, he came to save us from conservatives. I think that's absolutely true. By that, maybe the quote is save us from Republicans. This is the rhino crony capitalism thing. And look, I understand that this is a utopian statement, and I'm just saying it as a practical explanation. If you have fundamentally honest people, capitalism is superb. I mean, it's really superb. And companies that treat employees as a liability rather than an asset amaze me. I don't know what to I don't know what to say about them. That's like we were talking about earlier with healthcare, understaffing hospitals. Why would you understaff hospitals? Your ability to respond to people in medical need are what you do. if you're going to cut costs by having one emergency room doctor, then people will not go to your emergency room anymore. And I don't understand it. I've never understood it, ever. My dad was a genius at the reverse side of this. He was just an absolute genius at it. And I don't understand it. But it's everywhere. It's short-sighted people. And you know what it is too? A lot of it, I think, the more I think about it, a lot of it is this kind of what's the word was it? Accreditization? Is that a word? I probably just invented a word. But what I mean by that is, a lot of it is this idea that we're going to hire a president for Cracker Barrel who doesn't know what a cracker is or a barrel, but she graduated, third in her class, and has a marketing degree from Harvard. So we're going to hire her to rebrand Cracker Barrel and rebrand Bud Light, which she's never drunk in her life, this other person. And you get these people who have these degrees from these indoctrination centers, formerly known as universities, and boards hire them. Oh, she's going to make us a lot of money. Well, okay. Well, what are we going to do with this, Janet? Well, Cracker Barrel is a dying brand because it appeals to old people, and that's not the future. Well, here's news for you, Karen. You know what we don't ever run out of in this country? In fact, you know what we're actually producing more of than anything else? Old people. It's not like, and she said the same thing about Bud Light. That idiot said, well, we have to appeal to a younger crowd. Well, guess what? If you're not appealing to people when they're young today, in 20 years they're going to be older and they're going to be drinking Bud Light. This idea that old people are dying off, but no, you young people are becoming old people, is something that anybody with a lick of sense can tell you. And if you want to set up something that's nostalgic, people who are older tend to have more money. They tend to be much more brand loyal. Let's make sure that we make everything they liked about this place disappear, and let's kick them in the butt on the way out too. Let's insult them a little bit as well. It's like what I can understand these grifters like these like the Cracker Barrel president and like the marketing director at Bud Light and all the rest of them. I can understand why they do what they do, because they're getting paid. But where does how, well, I was going to say, where does the board get off agreeing on hiring these people? But they just want, they just want more money. They just want bigger returns. This is why so many businesses, like big businesses, go under. You take Ford, for example. Henry Ford was one of the richest men in the world. But I don't think Henry Ford went into the car business to get rich. I think Henry Ford went into the car business because he wanted people to have cars, and got very rich doing it. Everybody I've ever known that started their own successful business didn't do it to make money. They did it because there was something they were passionate about doing, and they made money doing it. But when you take those people out of the mix, you end up with just the skeleton of the machine, and then these mechanical vampires come in and just suck all the juice out of it, and then they let it die. What do they care? What does this woman who was doing the Cracker Barrel thing care about what happens to Cracker Barrel? She's only interested in this as she's not a Cracker Barrel customer, right? Or Boeing, for that matter. Yes, exactly. She's not a Cracker Barrel customer. What does she care? You really need to. I really honestly believe you could solve most of these problems if you hired from, if you were almost, I'm not saying legally bound because I don't believe in that, but I mean, if there was just enough common sense to realize you need to hire from within the organization. The president of Boeing should be a former Boeing engineer. The president of Disney should be a former Disney animator or Imagineer or something, right? These people with business degrees are interchangeable. They don't care what company they're president of. You could just tell that Cracker Barrel woman, you could tell that she was actually embarrassed to be the CEO of Cracker Barrel. Not so embarrassed she didn't take the job, don't get me wrong. And the same thing for that idiot with Bud Light, you know? I'm the vice president of, and we're going to take Bud Light into an entirely new century, and we're going to get rid of all of our customers, and we're going to get young hip customers like me. Well, it's not about you. And that's the thing too about these left-wing business specialists. It's all about them. All of these people that do all of these movies, they want to turn, they take superhero movies and they turn them into soul-searching reflections on finding your gender identity in the modern American hellhole. That's what Iron Man is now, or whatever, right? It's just about them. They can't even understand what they're selling. Unlimited Hornet Works says, what about Jaguar? I think that's been the most embarrassing rebrand of the decade. Yeah. Well, it was a remarkable rebrand. It reduced sales by 97%. So, I don't know. I don't know. But yes, these people with no love of business, only of management, who have no particular interest in the company that they're working for, are killing these companies faster than you can count them. Battlesmurf says, in California, mandated by the law, the idea of DEI in boardroom positions, some of these firms are being held laws and access to funds. Yes, well, and then there's BlackRock, which is trying to engineer the whole country into socialism for reasons that defy imagination, being venture capitalists as they are. Why they're trying to socialize the whole world is, I almost said it's a mystery to me, but I'll bet you anything it's got something to do with the idea of just resetting all the debt. That's what, if I had to guess on BlackRock's motive for promoting all of this DEI and not giving you loans unless you match this, climate change agenda. I'd like to burn them all to the ground. This economics isn't economics anymore. And we talked about buying a house a couple of shows ago and how that money is just fiated into existence, and none of it makes sense. And all of it, you know what they are? I'll tell you what they are. They're Pharisees. That's what these people are. They're Pharisees, and they sit around and they speak their own language that has no connection to anything in reality, and their major job is keeping other people out of the club. Oh, that's good news. Natasha says this painkiller is great. Rushed there and got it. Got it to her before I came over here and did that. And I told her everybody's pulling for her and praying for her and hoping she feels better. So thanks for everybody in that regard. That's great. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Um, Natasha said to thank all of you so much for the kind words. And she sends you all big hearts. So thank you very much for all of that. Yes, she said the news from Natasha. Yes, she said the new painkillers have really done the job. So that's great. Let me copy and paste this here. Hang on one second. We got. I just sent him. Yeah, she's hopped up on Goofballs. I just sent her what you said there, Dave, what in Russian, and I'll wait back to hear from her. So anyway, yeah, that's a big relief because she had a really rough 24 hours. So this will help a lot. We'll get her to get her started on Monday, and we'll take it from there. So thank you very much. So we got two Marusha Darks, and she said said I could pick one, and I think I'll take this one. Interesting. Bill, in light of recent calls by California Democrats to redistrict, Republican California State Senator Gallagher has put forward a proposal to divide California into two states, effectively ceding the coast to the Dems and making everything inland of the San Andreas Fault a new red state. See image. Obviously, it's not the first time such a proposal has been put forward, but these are unique and interesting times. I guess the real question is, should Superman have just allowed California to be destroyed when he had the chance? It's an interesting map, actually. Hang on. All right, you want to be like that? I'll do it this way. I've never seen this map before, but it's definitely interesting. It's basically a division of LA. It appears to be by existing county lines. Hang on. Yeah, I'll tell you one thing about this map. First of all, it would keep me in blue California, which I don't like, but that's not likely to change. However, this one actually seems to make sense. Hang on there, Twitch. I mean, this has a certain kind of logic to it. The question I have is, and I don't know what the numbers are, but what would that do to California's electoral votes? Needless to say, it would reduce California's at 54, I think we have now. That's going to go down with the next census. But yeah, push them up against the wall, divide them into two, and then have Eastern California conquer Western California from San Diego up to the north, and then from the north down, flank them, and then meet them in somewhere around San Francisco, Divide them into two countries, have Eastern California then build up a massive military. I don't think it'd take more than 5-6 guys with AR-15s, and attack from Imperial County up the coast, and then from the top down and meet in San Francisco and shake hands on the center of the Golden Gate Bridge. That's what I would do. I was going to say it seems so unlikely as to be impossible, but I'll tell you what, man, I've seen 3 impossible things this week already, and what is that? There is. So I wouldn't put it past him. I think it'd be great. Anything to reduce the power of the idiots in California would make me great. Unlimited Hornet Works says, I visited San Francisco a month ago, not terribly impressed. It used to be a beautiful city. USS Hornet was good, though. Is Hornet in San Francisco? I thought they were in San Diego for some reason. That must be Midway, I guess, in San Diego. Yeah. So look, anything, I'm down. Jacob Belchek, hail Bill. Any thoughts on Trump bombing drug ships? Yes. I think it's epic. Absolutely epic. And how many more can we get? See, here's the thing, right? And this is so obvious that only a progressive can't see it. If you take out a couple of these ships, now, with that said, you need to be sure, and I don't mean likely, you need to be sure, and we have means of being sure, that these are in fact drug runners and not, people out for a recreational cruise. But you start going after these things, and people might say, well, congratulations, you caught 1 out of 200. There'll be a lot fewer than 200 if you start blowing them out of the water. Yes, 100%. Where's the problem with this? Where is the problem? I can't imagine. Well, I can. I mean, again, this is the genius of Donald Trump. It really is his genuine, actual genius. Is looking at a political issue, finding out what the 80-20, where the 80-20 line is, and if the 80% is pro-American, stand on that, because not only do you get 80% of the people, you also force the liberals who have no political platform or philosophy or anything other than we don't like Donald Trump, then they will constantly have to take the 20% slice of the pie. And so it's 80-20, 80-20, 80-20, 80-20 across the board. We're now at the point now where Trump's intervention in Washington has caused the left to defend crime, murder, and shooting. It's genius. It's genius. And if somebody is approaching your country illegally, armed with illegal contraband, deadly illegal contraband, then that's why we have a Navy and a Coast Guard. And I always thought that the Coast Guard was underutilized. They're terrific guys. Having spent 25 years in South Florida, I saw a lot more Coast Guard activity there than I did here in California, because the Coast Guard is just out there rescuing, morons in boats on a daily basis. And I think I might have been one of those morons once or twice, although I wasn't in command of the boat. But I don't think we were ever rescued by the Coast Guard, but the Coast Guard was just out there all the time. I love the Coast Guard. Who could have a problem with the Coast Guard? They're awesome. And whether you want to use the Navy or the Coast Guard, look, that last attack looked like it was well, it didn't look like it was clearly a missile strike. It's probably a Hellfire. I don't think you're going to waste a harpoon on a boat that the harpoon would just fly through before it exploded. Yeah, do this a few times, and the number of boats go down, and the number of drivers goes down too. So yeah, I think we should be doing that. And by the way, I still don't understand why the U.S. Navy is not using like Houthi pirates for target practice. If there's ever an unmitigated evil on the high seas, it's piracy. And I can't tell you how many videos I've seen of these, container ships or tankers or whatever, and these speedboats come rupping up, running along the side, and they put fire hoses on them, or they put, fences up to defeat the grappling hooks. It's like, and if you're lying on the deck Due process, says Don Vickery. Well, this is, I probably guess, where we start to. Was that boat in international waters? Because, due process and things like these are important. And it's, again, it's a question of where's the center of gravity at the moment. And what I mean by that is, if you have a law-abiding country and a law-abiding world where it is not something that you can do and just hop in a boat and go, drive, motor your way to Florida and drop off all illegal drugs. If that's just not done, then you don't have those boats out there, so you don't have to do it. I know that sounds kind of simplistic, but it's really the point, right? Here's a better way to think of it is this, and I've never heard anybody else say this. I just like this expression. The reason we need a border wall is because the Democrats wouldn't let us have a border. If we'd had a border, we wouldn't need a border wall. But when you make it clear that anybody who tries to sneak across this invisible line is not only not going to be detained, but they're going to be welcomed, and given, the home edition of Jeopardy and a nice fruit basket when they get here, then you have to have a wall, because the normal becomes there's no downside to illegally entering the United States. If you make it clear that you can't illegally enter the United States, then you don't have to do these things. This is the thing about allowing lawlessness to continue. People, these innocent people are killed, or what, and in some cases, some innocent people are killed, and the only reason these innocent people are killed is because you have allowed so many of the guilty people to do this for so long that it becomes commonplace. I am not in the slightest upset about that. Have you guys seen the video of that one guy? I don't know if he's a SEAL. I'm pretty sure he's a Navy guy. And there's this Narcos semi-submersible. The thing's just barely awash. I mean, it's like the back of a whale. And these guys pull up next to it, and they're just screaming in Spanish, "Stop the boat, stop the boat." And this one American Chad just jumps off of his power boat, lands on the slippery top deck of this narco sub, goes to the hatch, starts pounding on the hatch, saying, "Stop the boat, stop the boat," opens the hatch, points his M4 down there, and then they stop the boat. It's like the most Chad thing ever. It's just super, super studly, and yeah, you do that a few times, and then innocent people don't get hurt. P7 2017 says habitual line crosser postulates it was hit with an energy weapon because nobody could find an ordnance trail. Okay, that'd be cool. Dave Olson says, Article 1, Section 8, the Congress shall have the power to define and punish piracies and felonies committed on the high seas and offenses against the laws of nations. So that means international waters, as far as I can say, the high seas. Drone with a Hellfire missile sounds about right to me. Yeah, and ultimately, it's F around and find out, which is, when did that meme develop? 24? 20? No earlier than 23, I don't think. I mean, that guy probably had that video forever. Here's the chart. You F around and you find out. But FAFO is a relatively new thing, and it's a law of nature, man. It's a law of nature. I think it's just great. So we got left here. Okay, we're good. Jacob Belcheck. Hey, Bill, do you find yourself getting even more conservative as time goes on? Yeah, I think I do. Let's find out. Obviously, you're very politically far removed from where you were as a 20-year-old. Have you had any political worldview change in the last 5 to 10 years? Yeah, I have, actually. I've become a lot more optimistic, especially in the last 9 months. I genuinely did not think. When I was, I mentioned this on my right angle, which I did put out, I think, called "We're Going In." I mentioned that a year and a half ago when I was figuring out shows for the website, and I was going to do things to come on that 80-year cycle and where the new battlefronts are going to be. And I said one of them is going to be the border and the other one's going to be inner cities. And to watch the border crossings go to zero and to start bailing out the boat, I just didn't think it was politically possible. And then going after inner city crime, I would have told you was not anything I would have seen in my lifetime, ever. And the genius of this is that when Trump went into Washington, all of the people that protested were white, rich liberals, and what the poor blacks who lived in these communities were saying is, I have never in my life felt safe in this city until now. That is not only winning voters for Trump and MAGA, it's changing minds about how city governance, about how easy it is to fix what we were told is an intractable problem. And as I pointed out on that episode, you've got the biggest control, experiment control in the country, which is the Big Apple. New York was the murder capital of the world my entire time growing up in the 70s and 80s and 90s. And then all of a sudden Rudy Giuliani comes along, and when I did number one with the bullet, New York wasn't in the top 20. So it's the control group. Yes, it's as simple as elect a pro law and order Republican, and the murder and the crime and the broken windows and the human defecation and the homeless camps will go away. All you have to do is just vote R. It's that simple, which is why these people are fighting it tooth and nail. And it's not lost on people that these progressives now are, as usual, defending murder. You can't come in here and stop all this murder. That's our job. Well, you've been doing that job exclusively for 70 years now. How's it working out for you? I've seen a bunch of videos from DC with black Americans who are not MAGA voters looking around in wonder saying, I cannot believe that I could stop at a red light at 2 o'clock in the morning and not be looking around waiting to get carjacked. I just never seen anything like it. I can't believe that I could go to the park with my kids and not worry about it. It is fundamentally transformational for good. Fundamentally transformational for good to go and show these cities that it is possible to enforce the law and make liars out of these Democrats who tell you that, oh no, the Republicans are all racists who hate black people. Well, some Republican racists who hate black people went into Washington D.C. with uniforms and weapons, and they saved a ton of black lives. And you do that often enough, and you're going to break this 80-year stranglehold that the Democrats have had on the black population of America. And if you do that, by the way, not only do you get a world where they never vote Democrat again, the Democrats never get national office again, that's just a benefit. You get a country that is no longer killing 8,000 of its own citizens every year, and all of this pathology and cancerous rage and all of this hopelessness and all of this stuff starts to go away. As I mentioned on that right angle, it's a risky thing going into Chicago, but the stakes are enormous. Enormous. Hey, Jake, I did see that sign about Winsome Sears event. And we did a right angle about that called Racist Democrats, something or other. And the thing I pointed out that was most instructive about that episode was that, see, this is what it looks like when you play fair, because Steve Scott and I all took a take at that, and we all three agreed that you can't hold the candidate responsible for what one person brings to the sign. You can hold them responsible if they endorse that sign, but you can't be held responsible for one of your supporters coming and bringing one of those. So no, I don't think it's fair to tar that person with that. But that's just being fair. The Democrats will use any example, edit tape as need be, and do whatever they can to take every cheap shot they get, which is why they're losing. You know, people, I think this is one thing, really one thing that younger voters, the late millennials and Gen Zers really do have going for them. They have their rebelliousness against authority is way out of control. They are way too confrontational and disrespectful, and demand to be told why I have to hand over your driver's license when the police officer asks it. Well, you hand it over because that's the law, and he's telling you to do it, so you need to do it. But they do seem to have a real nose for authenticity, and I think that I think it's dawning on a bunch of them that these Democrats who are getting older and older and older are not working in their interest. So, you know, there you go. So yeah, I've gotten more optimistic. I don't know if I've gotten. I got pretty conservative when I got conservative. I just try to be fair, you know. I want to be fair. I don't want to be. I don't want to be a right-wing version of left-wingers. I want to be fair and honest, and I want to do the right thing. You know, I'm 100% in favor of deporting all of these illegals that stuck across the border, especially these criminals and these military-aged men, and that invasion aspect of it. But I was deeply troubled by asylum seekers who came here, applied for asylum, being put on a plane, sent back to Russia, and having these people being imprisoned and interrogated, in some cases physically, by the FSB, by the successor to the KGB. That's shameful to me. And people say, well, you know, can you do it? I'm not saying you can do a probable cause trial for every single one of the 20 million illegals who are here. But what I am saying is, if you come to this country and you walk into a customs office and you apply for asylum, or you apply for a green card, or you do any of these things, then you're dealing with people who are fundamentally law-abiding people. These are people we need here. And again, a lot of these people are highly educated. And I do think as a follow-up to that, I think we absolutely have the right to say, on an individual basis, I'm sorry, I don't think you're going to contribute to this country. I just don't. The reason we could take so much immigration in the 1800s was because we had an industrial revolution, and it doesn't take a lot of language skills or a great deal of education, prior education, to turn a wrench on an assembly line. You just turn that same wrench on the same bolt, and you get a factory job. And much more importantly, all of the immigrants prior to the it was the Cuban immigrants that really started it, I think. It wasn't even their fault. It was the left taking over. But prior to the Cuban immigration wave, people came to America, and their first expectation was, we have to become as American as possible. When the Cubans came, the leftists told them, well, you don't have to learn English. We'll have English second language courses, and we'll give you ballots in Spanish, and we'll give you, phone answering machines in Spanish, and we'll give you, driver's licenses in Spanish. And once we started doing that, we took away the incentive for people to Americanize. And ever since then, the left worships weakness and incapacity, because that's how they see themselves. And so the left will always identify with the underdog regardless of whether the underdog is right or not. And all you have to do is look at Hamas, and there's your answer. All right, so there you go. Anyway, Roadrunner, and then Eric Blake, and we're done. Greetings, friend Bill. Hey, Roadrunner, good to see you. The British government is taking advantage of the fact that they do not have a First Amendment. You know, the British government, my God. They need another revolution over there. By making any political speech that does not follow the message illegal. Recently, a British comedian, Graham Linehan, was arrested as he arrived at Heathrow for some tweets he made while in the United States. Yes. Well, he exercised his right to free speech in a free country, but he's not a citizen of a free country. A new law going into effect to ban pub customers from talking about controversial topics. Good. With the prosecution of thought crime, someone arrested for silently praying across the street from abortion clinic. Good. Big Brother watching everything, surveillance cameras everywhere, and only approved speech allowed police visits for non-crime hate incidents. Should we just go ahead and start calling the country Airstrip 1? No. I want these things to continue. I want regular British citizens to be arrested for Facebook posts. I want them to be. I especially want them to get arrested for saying something controversial in a pub, because that's what it's going to take. That's what it's going to take. It's going to take overreach. It always is overreach. Major social change happens because enough people get angry. It doesn't have to be the majority of people, but it has to be the most active of people. Now, a lot of revolutions, especially the most recent ones, have been communist revolutions that just bring nothing but evil, but the idea of a revolutionary change in your government only happens when the population gets angry enough, because there's a lot to lose. And P7 2017 says, going to take for what? The people complaining about this put Starmer in office. Well, then those people need to hurt some more. We saw the exact same thing here in America. You know, we saw Trump come in 2016, and he had support from people, but the 2024 Trump was a result of the 2020 sexual assault that they inflicted on the American people. We weren't angry enough in 2016. We weren't angry enough in 2020, but as a result of 2020, with the election and COVID and all the rest of it, the United States got angry enough to really, really push for change. And so Trump 47 is an entirely different guy than Trump 45. And by the way, hard to bear though it was, that election in 2020, I think saved the country, because it was so flagrant, and what happened after it was so astonishingly awful. And this mummy wandering off stage, and this cackling idiot showed us what the left has when they're ready to cheat for the win. And the most important thing, by far, that election did was it gave Donald Trump 4 years to think about what he was going to do if he had a second term. Let's not forget that in 2016 we had the House, the Senate, and the presidency, and we didn't do anything with it. And I think during those 4 years afterwards, especially after the Mar-a-Lago raid, I think Donald Trump said, I'm going to win this election, and when I do, this is what we're going to bring. And I have never seen anything like it. I've never seen anything like it. I don't. I can't imagine. I could not imagine the things that we're seeing. And liberals are doing two things which I find constantly amusing in comment sections. One of them is is this idea that that they're trying to promote, that so many Republicans and MAGA voters regret their vote. I see this all the time. Joy Behar on The View says millions of Americans are now regretting their vote and wish they'd voted for Kamala Harris. And every time I see a post like that, I go into the comment section and it's like, nope, 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 not one of us. There's not one of us. You can't find one of us. Not a single one, not one. And closely related to that are sometimes you'll see outrage posts from left-wingers saying, you know, like an innocent boat full of narco traffickers was blown up by a missile as they tried to come into America and kill our children. Is that what you voted for? And every single comment is, that's exactly what I voted for. Yeah, 100%. That's precisely exactly what I voted for. And they'd just be clowning themselves. So I think it's got to be, I would think it would be very encouraging. I think the MAGA, I think watching the MAGA phenomenon from Britain would be very encouraging to British patriots. I think I would think if I was living in Britain, I would think, well, it didn't seem like it could ever possibly happen in America, home of all this political correct nonsense, but the Americans did it and are reversing it, and if they can do it, we can do it. Whether they can do it remains to be seen. They don't have a Donald Trump, and Farage is not the guy. I thought he was, but I just don't think he's the guy. I think they're going to need somebody a little more blatant than that. So we'll see. Yeah, Gumman says President Trump has quit trying to play nice with his opponents. Now the rest of the Republicans need to do the same. Yes, we need to stop playing nice with these people and put them in jail where they belong. We didn't start this, but we will finish it. You know. So, hang on a second. I want to catch something here. I just got called an echo chamber. That's a unusual title. Am I okay with Trump's corruption in broad daylight? Looking for examples, Paul. You know. That's a easy thing to say. I'm looking for some evidence. We deal with evidence and critical thinking here. So. What you got? One last one to go here. Eric Blake, tonight the case of the sweet summer children. But your latest right angle had an interesting segment where Scott argued that the people in the Democrat-run crime-ridden cities should be allowed to deal with the crime issues on their own because then they'll learn. But you gave the perfect rebuttal. It took Trump deploying the National Guard to clean up D.C. for the citizens of the Capitol to learn, and now they're vehemently grateful to Trump. So this is my point. A lot of conservative pundits have been having that let them learn attitude. Our friend Clavin, for example, says he hopes Mandami, the queer Muslim commie, wins the New York City mayor election because then they'll learn. Let's be perfectly honest, Bill, New York City just endured the consequences of de Blasio, and what learning did we see from that? Frankly, if you want a New York City or LA for that matter to learn, I believe Trump has to set a good precedent for them. No. In order for city Democrats to actually learn, they need to experience Republicans in charge. Nothing else will do. Am I right? Am I off base? I think you're right. And I think it's a carrot and stick kind of thing. So the accelerationist idea is the stick thing. You need to let things get worse and worse and worse until people change their minds. But part of changing their minds is not just the stick. It's also the carrot. And the thing that Trump has done with D.C. and is now talking about doing with Chicago is showing them the alternative. And John Eden shows up with $99 super chat right out from underneath the clouds where he usually emerges from, up in the clear blue sky. John, you're an excellent person. Thank you very, very, very much. I really appreciate it. And same as from Dave. Here's a little pocket change to help you and the lovely wife celebrate tomorrow's milestone, day 2000 of 15 days to flatten the curve. My God. And Dave says, oh, sure, John, show me up. Thank you both very much. Every little bit helps. I'm very grateful to everyone who makes a super chat, but you really are something. So Paul says, come out of the echo chamber, read ground news with all sources plus media's touch network. You'll see things you're not seeing in an echo chamber, some MAGA eyes opening because of these sources. Still waiting for piece of evidence that you got on ground news with all sources. So this should be easy. This is the kind of, show me your sources. Well, there are plenty of sources. Okay, well, it should be easy for you to show one. And I look, I think ground news is a really good idea, but to think that I don't listen to the other point of view, or that I don't listen to or hear the arguments against Trump, just plain wrong. You said all of his corruption. When you say, what about all of? When you say, I'm not criticizing ground news. When you say, what about all of Trump's corruption? My reply would be, give me some examples. Because when you say all of his corruption, that certainly seems to indicate that there's a lot of it. So this should be easy. And if it's easy, produce it. If somebody were to ask me, show me all of the evidence, if I told you I have lots of evidence for the moon landing, and they said, produce it, then I'd be able to produce it. Ground news is excellent. Thanks to Marusha for confirming. Couldn't agree more. 100%. Where's your evidence for Trump's corruption? You can tell me to read ground news, but that's not evidence for corruption. I don't like this accusation of being an echo chamber. Like all I do is repeat talking points to other people whose talking points are being repeated back to me. I resent it. And so I am challenging you to provide the evidence to change my mind. What evidence do you have of Trump's corruption? Simple question. Let's check it here. Yeah, ground news is an aggregator, and ground news identifies left-wing stuff, right-wing stuff. Ground news has something called a blind spot feature, where they feature stories where you might not let you may not see because you're watching this. List is long, crypto to start with. Paul. List is long, crypto to start with is not evidence. It's not even an accusation. I'll tell you this. Here's one thing I do know about Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the only politician in the history of America to lose $1 billion by becoming president of the United States. His net worth coming out of his 2016 term was $1 billion lower than it was when he went in. Now that to me seems an odd sort of corruption. If you want to talk about corruption, you can look at people like Nancy Pelosi or Barack Obama, who are suddenly worth, or the Clintons, who are worth hundreds of millions of dollars on a $400,000 a year salary on the top end. That's evidence. I don't see how coming into political office for the first time in your entire career and losing $1 billion of net worth is a sign that you're milking the system. Do you? Now, if he's talking about the Trump coins, corruption is essentially means taking public money under the table. That's generally a thumbnail of what political corruption means. Trump didn't take public money, and he didn't do it under the table. Now, whether or not the Trump Bitcoin was a good idea, I don't know. I know a lot of people are dabbling with that kind of thing. I know Hawk Tuah Girl put out a coin, but no one forced anybody to do it. So, I'm just waiting for evidence. Because here's a funny thing about me for being an echo chamber guy. If you can produce evidence that is convincing, I'll change my mind. So, anyway. His net worth has actually increased by billions this term. Well, first of all, the burden on proof is on you. You're the one who's making the accusation of corruption. So first of all, we're going to have to find out how much his net worth has increased. And then secondly, you're going to have to be showing how he got that money without any visible means of support. You have to show me evidence. Making laws surrounding crypto and then cashing in on it. Hang on, we're what's the working? That's what the enterprise computer says. I'm not just killing time here. I'm just waiting. Yes, exactly. Hello, computer. But Grok has gotten slow. I think it uses 3. Come on. Well, after chewing on it and researching a number of Bloomberg estimates and Forbes estimates, it appears that Trump's net worth is somewhat lower now than when he took office. Boy, it is just, I don't know what this. Okay, we got it. We got an answer here. Estimating Donald Trump's net worth is challenging due to fluctuations in volatile assets like his stake in Trump Media and Technology Group, blah, 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 blah. Reliable estimates come primarily from Forbes and Bloomberg, which track billionaire wealth with their conservative and market-based approaches, respectively. I'll provide estimates for the 2 dates, which I chose January 19th and then today, 2025. Net worth on January 19th, 2025. Forbes says 6.7 billion. Bloomberg says between 7 just over $7 billion. Net worth today, as of recent updates, Trump's net worth has declined from its January highs due to cooling markets, office and real estate pressures from higher interest, and volatility in his media and crypto holdings. Current estimates include Forbes approximately $5.1 billion as of early June, with no major reported changes since. He ranks number 700 on their 2025 billionaires list, number 700. Bloomberg says around $5.4 billion. So Forbes said that when he took office, he was worth $6.7 billion, but now he's worth $5.1 billion. Bloomberg estimated he was worth $7 billion when he took office. Today he's $5.4 billion, which means he's lost about $2 billion to $3 billion since he's been in office. So that corruption machine he's running is a heck of a deal, isn't it? He's lost $2 billion since January when he was sworn into office. See, now that's what you call evidence. That's actual evidence. It's unbiased evidence. Those are Forbes and Bloomberg numbers. What was it in 2015? I don't know. All I remember was seeing that he had lost $2 billion between when he started then and there. He's worth more now than he was when he left office in 2021, but that would be expected because of growth in the economy and so on. So I asked for evidence, and what I got was a $2 billion reduction in his net worth in 6 months. Well, 9, 8. Now, my question is, did that change your mind? Because if it had turned out that it had been $6 or $7 billion in January and now it was 20, then I would say, okay, let's find out where that 20 came from. And if there's an unexplained hunk of money, then that's something worth looking at. I'm just carrying water for Trump in the hopes that I can ingratiate myself and be the first man to walk on the moon. I mean the 13th. Exactly, yes. No, this is just intellectual honesty. It's just intellectual honesty. So, that's how it's done, man. And it's not hard. So that's why I fundamentally trust this man. Fundamentally. Not completely, but fundamentally. So we'll see. Anyway, that's that. And that's our last question for the night. So I'm going to look, I'm not trying to beat you up, Paul. I don't like being called an echo chamber guy. It's the opposite of what I try to do. And I feel like what I have succeeded in doing, because I take it very seriously. But that's how it works. And there you go. Okay, anyway, I'm going to check out. I've got a couple shows I have to get ready for tomorrow. I got a members only show and I got another public show. That's what I learned in debate in high school. If you want to learn how to think and you're willing, Paul comes back with corruption involves various factors, not just NW calculations. It sounds like being confronted with contrary evidence, you are so convinced of your rightness that you're ignoring the evidence, but by all means, there's nothing I can do about that. And that's going to be the hard part about the truth bombs thing, is just people not being able to face it. Anyway, there it is. But it is a good case of moving the goalposts, because the essential argument was that Trump's corruption has made him richer now than he was before he took office. But clearly, the people that measure these things, that's Forbes and was it Fortune? Those are independent sources. Anyway, no hard feelings, man. That's just how we roll around here. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. Thanks for everybody. Thanks for the kind words for Natasha and everything else. I really appreciate it, and thanks for the support. And I'm going to go and find out what's going on. A couple people said maybe my website's maybe the issue is it's not a slow PC, and it's not that I haven't restarted it recently, but you know, it might be a cache issue. But to be honest with you, I'm just I just don't know if I can face it tonight. I think I'm going to have to go home and sleep on it and come in tomorrow and find out why this thing is going on. Bill Bingo, you also ignore evidence when you're not aware of other facts, says Paul. You frequently say you don't know this or that story. Again, I gave you a goodwill answer and multiple chances to provide actual evidence to back up your claim, but you didn't. And in the time that you didn't, I provided actual evidence to contradict your claim. And so me admitting that I don't know all the facts is not an admission that I was wrong on this one. On the contrary, it was an admission that I was willing to take a look at the issue in good faith. I didn't know what the answer was going to be when I typed that question into Grok. I had no idea what the answer was going to be. So you're starting to lose the good faith argument here pretty quickly. So I'll take a look at doing the I'll take a look at the website in Firefox and see if there's anything else. But in any event, thanks for our members for making this possible. Thanks for everybody for being here. We'll probably see you on Monday night. And until then, have a great weekend, and we will see you guys soon.